An obscene spectacle. What we saw with Hamas parading these 3 Israeli hostages in the streets surrounded by a mob screaming Allahu Akbar, standing on top of Red Cross vans where they clearly have no regard for the Israelis, frankly, on both Hamas and the Red Cross. Where have they been for the last year and a half? And people in the West in particular, it seems, haven't really registered what it is that we're seeing in this picture over here. I want to read you the words of Melanie Phillips, where she talks about this image of Hamas terrorists holding back the Gaza mob menacing Israeli hostage Doron Steinbrecher at the moment of her release. To all those in the West who have perpetrated the lie of Israeli genocide in Gaza for the past 15 months, look at the pictures of the mob surrounding the 3 Israeli women hostages who were freed, and see thousands of Gazans who are well fed, well groomed, and well dressed. What do you have to say now about the murderous libel you have perpetrated against the Israeli victims of these people? The lie that the Israelis were deliberately starving them, that they were the victims of Israeli-induced famine, that the Jews were behaving like Nazis. Do you have a scintilla of shame or regret about what you have done in spreading this foul incitement? Do you even understand what you saw today? Or are you too busy cheering on instead the pictures of those pro-Palestinian hate marchers in London yesterday, dozens of whom were arrested by the police because they were absolutely determined to harass and terrorise British Jews at their synagogue Sabbath services nearby? Look at that horrifying footage of those Gaza mobs, those enormous potential lynch mobs jeering and threatening 3 Israeli women as they were handed over to the Red Cross. The same mobs who abused the live hostages and desecrated the bodies of the murdered ones when they were all dragged into Gaza after the October 7th massacre. Look at that footage and then tell us again that the vast majority of Palestinian Arabs in Gaza are innocent civilians and victims of the Israelis. Listen to those mobs chanting ecstatically for the murder of Jews in a willed repetition of the slaughter of Jews by Islam's founder, Muhammad, in 7th century Khaybar. Then watch Sky News report this as a celebration, and then begin to understand the depravity of the Western media that sanitise this barbarism for 15 months and demonise its victims. Look at the thousands who have emerged in Hamas uniform and armed to the teeth, vowing to carry out more and more October 7th massacres, until every Jew is dead and Israel is destroyed. God forbid. Hamas murder squads loudly declaring that they will use the ceasefire to regroup, rearm and attack Israel, and then listen to the politicians hailing this development as the beginning of peace. Look with breaking heart at the poignant joy and indescribable relief from suffering of the families reunited with their newly freed girls. How can this be anything other than a source not just of joy, but also shuddering horror at what they have endured, and at who knows what scars they will bear for the rest of their lives, and a source almost of the most profound agony over the vast majority of the Israeli captives, both alive and dead, who remain incarcerated as pawns of these Palestinian Arab psychopaths, and who will now be used to eke out further unbearable distress among the hostages and their families, and to extort and manipulating Israelis into ensuring that Hamas survive, regroup, and resume the business of genocide. All you who have connived at this obscenity, including the members of the Biden administration and the incoming Trump administration, yes, even though it was indeed Donald Trump whose arrival on the scene forced Hamas and Qatar to yield up this limited number of hostages, but at a terrible price that no civilized nation should have expected and any victimized people to pay, including enabling its genocidal army to regroup and re-emerge as a force for evil in a way that threatens to render worthless the supreme sacrifice made by all those Israeli heroes who have fallen in battle. You who are all falling over yourselves to take credit for the release of the hostages today, know this, that the spectacle of these innocents having to run to the gauntlet of genocidal menace after 15 months in hell, this hostage negotiation that was more akin to a mafia-style hit job forcing Israel under unimaginable pressure to release dozens of men who have slaughtered Israeli Jews over the years, who left hundreds of families permanently bereaved and shattered, and are now being released to do it all again. You have produced a sickening theatre of sadism and cruelty on the eve of Trump's inauguration, which casts a baleful shadow over the new and transformative era that tomorrow's dawn will supposedly bring. Let's hope the Trump administration speedily redeems itself by helping Israel now rid the world once and for all of this evil, because the Jewish people will never forget nor forgive what you have done. She's absolutely right, what she's saying here. And frankly, a ceasefire that allows Hamas to regroup, a deal that releases terrorists and murderers back into the streets, is immoral. It sends the most dangerous message that Israel will capitulate, that if you take hostages, it pays, and that ultimately Israel won't fully get rid of you if you try and attack them. That's the message it sends. I'm not saying that's the truth, but that is the message that it sends. We have to learn the lessons of the past. Ceasefiring, prisoner exchanges leads to more bloodshed in the long term. We must learn the lesson and know that the only way to have long-term peace is to fully erase the threat, the aggressor.
Hi, thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me. But most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.